Last year, I made a video about my top 25 favorite roller coasters of all time. However, after getting a chance to visit even more parks this year, my list has vastly changed. I finally got around to going to Cedar Point, and I managed to go to a few other notable parks as well. With that being said, please keep in mind that there are many parks I haven't gone to. I'll be visiting Six Flags Magic Mountain and Knott's Berry Farm in June, and I may stop by Kennywood and Six Flags Great America as well. But for now, here are my top 25 roller coasters I've ever ridden. Number 25 is Phoenix at Pennsylvania's Knoebels Amusement Resort, a PTC wooden roller coaster. This ride is everything a classic wooden coaster should be. As if Knoebels weren't an awesome enough park, this coaster really is the star attraction, and it deserves to be so. Originally installed at San Antonio's defunct Playland, this coaster was actually relocated to Knoebels in 1985. The fact that it was relocated and still rides as good as it does just goes to show the amount of care the park gives it. The track is well greased and smooth overall, but it still has that iconic slight rumble that gives it a classic wooden coaster feel. Perhaps the best part of this coaster for me though was the absence of seat belts. This coaster only has classic buzz bars, which makes the ride's airtime even crazier than it already is. You go through the whole layout all the while getting some insane out of your seat moments. Out of all the classic roller coasters I've ridden, this one gives the best airtime. I seriously can't believe it was first built in 1948, but it was, so I highly recommend it. Number 24 is Apollo's Chariot at Virginia's Busch Gardens Williamsburg, a B&M hypercoaster. This was the first B&M hypercoaster to ever open, and while some seats are smoother than others, there's no doubt in my mind that it still holds up to this day. This coaster has what I consider to be the best setting for a B&M hyper, right on the edge of the Rhine River. This stunningly beautiful setting is the perfect fit for Busch Gardens Williamsburg, which is well known for its aesthetic magnificence. I'm a sucker for dreamlike settings, and this coaster takes the cake in that department. The ride itself is an excellent blend of signature floater airtime moments, diving turns, and overall enjoyment. As you know, I love floater airtime. On some days, I love it just as much as ejector airtime. In all honesty, for the first B&M hyper ever to open, it's aged pretty well. Sure, it could use a bit of track work, but sitting towards the left side of the train was significantly smoother for me, and I really enjoyed it. Even with a few bumps though, you can never go wrong with a B&M hyper, and this is no different. Number 23 is Manta at Florida's SeaWorld Orlando, a B&M flying coaster. This is without a doubt the best flying coaster I've ever ridden. Not only does it have an incredible setting, but it packs quite a punch too. Its pretzel loop is absolutely insane, and it really presses you into the back of your seat. Plus, its corkscrew and two inline twists really adds the flying coaster experience. Going back to its setting, unlike Superman Ultimate Flight, this ride doesn't just sit over a patch of grass. Manta's layout takes riders over park paths and through the trees. Not to mention, its iconic bank turn over the water is one of the most photogenic moments on any roller coaster. No matter how many times I go to SeaWorld Orlando, I can't help but to take photos of this beauty. If you love flying coasters, you absolutely cannot miss out on this one. Number 22 is Superman Krypton Coaster at Texas's Six Flags Fiesta Texas, a B&M floorless coaster. This one is the best floorless coaster I've ridden. While this coaster is well known for its incredible interaction with the limestone quarry wall, there's a lot more to it than just the setting. Starting off with an incredible drop, this coaster takes you through a massive vertical loop, which is actually one of the tallest in the world. While some floorless coasters are smoother than others, this one is by far the slickest of the bunch. Throughout the ride's 6 inversions, there was absolutely no headbanging to be found, not even on the Cobra roll, and as a whole, the layout felt just as big and epic as a ride themed to Superman should be. You just go soaring through this layout, and like I've mentioned before, the quarry wall interactions make it even more astounding than it already is. And at night, this coaster is outstanding. Come to think of it, so far I haven't ridden a single Superman coaster that was bad, so I look forward to the ones I haven't ridden yet. Number 21 is The Beast at Ohio's Kings Island, an in-house made wooden roller coaster. I'll be honest, I really don't care that this ride is rough at times. If anything, it actually adds to the vintage and suspenseful feel that the ride is supposed to have. Like I've said before, it's a lovable kind of bumpy, if that makes sense. It is the longest wooden coaster on Earth, and even with the trims and long chain lifts, its long, sprawling layout is a blast to experience through and through. There are some incredible airtime moments, lateral pack turns, and some immensely intense drops. I'm a sucker for long rides, and the Beast does a phenomenal job making the ride thoroughly enjoyable. For me, my favorite moment is the drop after the second chain lift, the one that goes straight into a tunnel. That is a lot more intense than the POVs make it out to be. And as if the ride itself wasn't awesome enough, a night ride is an absolute must. Zooming through the woods with only the moon to light the mist between the trees is spectacularly dreamlike. Words can't describe how amazing it is, and you really have to experience it for yourself. It is the best night ride I've ever had, and I doubt that any coaster will surpass it. Number 20 is Magnum XL 200 at Ohio Cedar Point, an aerodynamics hypercoaster. This is another coaster that some find to be rough. Some people love it and some people hate it. I flat out love this coaster. Sure, it may not be the smoothest hypercoaster, but like the Beast, it definitely falls into the category of a lovable kind of bumpy. I didn't find this ride to be painful at all, and even the restraints didn't bother me, though I can understand why some people may be a bit iffy towards it. Magnum XL 200 had so much airtime that it was impossible for me not to love this coaster. It's certainly a unique kind of airtime that I've never experienced before, and I can't quite put my finger on it, so it's hard for me to describe it. It's another coaster that you'd really have to ride for yourself to know what it feels like. There are some pretty intense out-of-your-seat airtime moments, and the tunnels towards the end make them feel even crazier. Plus, the long, stretching layout over the beach and by the water park allows for some incredible views. Considering its age, this ride still holds up quite well. Number 19 is the new Texas Giant at Six Flags Over Texas, an RMC iBox coaster. For the first ever RMC hybrid coaster, this ride still manages to hold its own with the company's other major attractions. Sure, it may not have the insane inversions of their later coasters, but its abundance of airtime moments and lengthy, fast-paced layout make it an instant hit in my book. It has a great gutbuster of a first drop and a wide array of ejector airtime moments. My favorite moment by far was the 90-degree overbank turn, which gives you the unbeatable sensation of sideways airtime. Moreover, how can you go wrong with those awesome tunnels towards the end? Pretty much the only bad thing I have to say about this coaster are the slightly awkward windows on the sides of the trains. I know that these are meant to keep people from sticking their arms out too far, but they did feel a little peculiar. Other than that, this ride still holds up with the many A-list attractions that RMC has to offer. It's long, strong, and jam-packed full of airtime. Number 18 is Manta at Florida's Busch Gardens Tampa, a B&M inverted coaster. For me, this will always be the crown jewel of the B&M invert family. Every time I've ridden this coaster, I've always had a smooth and insanely satisfying ride experience. Its emphasis on long, sweeping elements makes this a superbly paced thrill ride worthy of its acclaim. Throughout the layout, you'll be treated to a multitude of inversions, including an Immelman, a zero-G roll, and my personal favorite, the Batwing. Much of this ride is low to the ground, and oftentimes you'll find yourself diving into Egyptian-style trenches, which perfectly fits in with the ride's theming. Oftentimes, you won't see the next element coming, and you'll be whipped upside down. Every element is perfectly placed, and there's no way around it. Manta is awesome. Number 17 is Mako at Florida's SeaWorld Orlando, a B&M hypercoaster. As I've said before, you can never go wrong with a B&M hyper, and Mako easily ranks among my favorites. As of right now, this is the newest hypercoaster to open in the United States, so it's clear to see why it's so buttery smooth. From the astounding first drop to the final brake run, this ride will send you soaring up and down, and its waterside setting makes the experience that much more memorable. Its monumental floater airtime moments and exhilarating bank turns both lead to a stellar ride experience overall. Not even the trim brakes can kill the ride's flow, and despite how short it may feel, it does the most with its impressive layout. The section towards the end where you zoom past the gift shop and over the water is especially picturesque, and by the time it's all over, don't be surprised if you find yourself back in line. Number 16 is Cheetah Hunt at Florida's Busch Gardens Tampa, an Intamin Blitz coaster. Now, some people may disagree with this choice, but I still maintain that Cheetah Hunt is one of the most entertaining and memorable launch coasters I've ever ridden. It may not be nearly as intense as something like Maverick, but its long ride experience packs in a wide array of elements that I can't help but get a kick out of. Its figure 8 element is visually stunning, the launches are both fun and forceful, and the zero-G roll really does a lot to spice up the layout. Then there's my favorite section, attraction, the slalom turns that take you past the waterfall. These turns provide some excellent laterals and really make you feel like a cheetah maneuvering the natural terrain. Some people consider this to be more of a family coaster, but I certainly disagree. Its fun factor can easily make it just as much fun for adults as it is for kids. Number 15 is Millennium Force at Ohio's Cedar Point, an Intamin Giga coaster. Due to technical difficulties during my trip, I only got to ride this coaster once, but if that one ride taught me anything, it's that this coaster is indeed an awesome one. Sure, it may not be as airtime packed as other rides on this list, but Millennium Force still packs enough speed and memorable elements to make it into my top 15. Starting off with an astounding first drop, this ride sends you flying through the trees and past other park attractions with a layout that mixes enormous airtime hills with thrilling bank turns. While some enthusiasts consider this ride to be forceless, I actually grayed out at the bottom of its first drop. Plus, at an impressive 93 miles per hour, this coaster feels just as fast as it actually is. You really feel like you're zooming through the park like Sonic the Hedgehog. Plus, its night ride is undeniably dreamlike as you soar past the lights of Cedar Point's other attractions. After almost 2 decades, this ride is still more than worthy of being one of the park's top coasters. Number 14 is Diamondback at Ohio's Kings Island, a B&M hypercoaster. As far as B&M hypers go, this one is hands down my favorite. There's so much to love about this coaster that it's honestly hard to keep track of. Not only does it pack the towering airtime hills I know and love from B&M, but the way the ride goes into the forest makes it feel much more secluded than your typical hypercoaster. This in turn gives Diamondback an excellent night ride, as you can barely see the ride's dips and turns coming at you. Now, I have heard some people say this ride has a rattle to it, but I honestly didn't notice it at all. The track was smooth throughout the entire duration, and not once was the airtime impeded. Trim brakes are kept to an absolute minimum, and the ones that are present don't interfere with the ride's fun factor. To top it all off, this ride ends with a bang when the trains go through a visually appealing splashdown section. I still have many more hypercoasters to check out, but it's gonna be hard to top this one. Number 13 is Mystic Timbers, also at Ohio's Kings Island, a GCI wooden coaster. On paper, this ride's stats may not seem that groundbreaking, but the actual ride experience is pretty much guaranteed to blow you away. GCI really hit it out of the park with this one, offering a wooden roller coaster that's both smooth and consistently thrilling. Throughout the layout, you will encounter ejector airtime moment after ejector airtime moment, along with a covered tunnel and a trick track type element that tosses riders sideways. Like both Diamondback and the Beast, this coaster takes riders into the woods, also allowing for an insane night ride. With its low to the ground course, this coaster feels much faster than it actually is, and once you pick up that speed, you keep it throughout the layout. Even the final brake run is worth noting, as you'll be surrounded by engaging theming and a charming ending. The fact that they gave this coaster a kind of fantasy horror theme makes it much more memorable, and I love it when roller coasters manage to tell a story. This ride is proof that you don't have to be the biggest and the fastest to be one of the best. If you live in the Cincinnati area, you can't miss Mystic Timbers. Number 12 is Wicked Cyclone at Massachusetts Six Flags New England, an RMC iBox coaster. This was the first RMC I've ever ridden, and I swear I never get tired of this one. This coaster is so compact that it's a wonder how it feels as long as it does. The drop, despite being barely over 100 feet, is still one of the most intense drops I've experienced, launching you downwards into that first overbank turn. The 0G stall and both 0G rolls are smooth and surreal, twisting you through the ride's supports like you're in the middle of an actual cyclone. If you love ejector airtime as much as I do, you'll be pleased to know that this ride is chock full of it. This is especially evident during its outstanding double down, which really launches you upwards. Not to mention that outward banking airtime hill that makes you feel like you're about to be tossed out of the vehicle. As if the ride itself wasn't enough, the park even put a decent amount of theming inside it, which really goes to show how much effort was put into this attraction. As a New England resident myself, I can safely say that this ride is indeed wicked. Number 11 is Wonder Woman Golden Lasso coaster at Texas's Six Flags Fiesta Texas, an RMC Raptor. When this ride was first announced, I had no idea what to expect. Sometimes prototype models look more impressive than they actually turn out to be. However, after getting a chance to ride it, I'm happy to say that it's just as awesome as it looks. Built on the former location of the park's flume ride, Wonder Woman is a vibrant and colorful coaster that looks even better on the water. But besides the ride's appearance, the coaster itself is both extremely fast and intense. As short as it is, I wasted no time in marathoning this coaster over and over again. It not only provides the ejector airtime we've come to expect from RMC, but its 90-degree drop does a flawless job providing the necessary speed for riders to zoom through the course. And no, this footage is not sped up. This is how fast the coaster actually looks. The ride serves up a turbocharged experience that you'd be hard-pressed to find anywhere else. It's one of those what just happened kind of rides, where the coaster's awesomeness will leave you sitting on the brake run in disbelief. Number 10 is Lightning Rod at Tennessee's Dollywood, an RMC launch topper track coaster. It may be famous for its downtime, but this coaster runs on all 4 cylinders of fun. Although the pothole after the first drop may have a bit of an oof factor to it, at least when I rode it, this ride was impossible to resist as a whole, and by the end, it was just a very minor nitpick. While its launch is a unique feature, the ride avoids being a simple gimmicky wooden coaster by packing a plethora of airtime into its crazy layout. My personal favorite elements are the incredible wave turn and the ultra extreme quadruple down. Yes, a quadruple down. The latter, of course, being one of the craziest airtime moments I've ever experienced. And as if that weren't awesome enough, it's simply astonishing how the engineers and designers incorporated the ride's layout into its natural Smoky Mountain terrain. The way you dip and twist on the side of a mountain and through the trees makes it feel like Doctor Strange is morphing space and time around you. It's by far the best terrain coaster experience I've ever had, and an A-list attraction for Dollywood for sure. Number 9 is Intimidator 305 at Virginia's King's Dominion, an Intamin Giga Coaster. If you love balls to the wall intensity, you'll love Intimidator 305. This phenomenal Giga Coaster has the unique distinction of staying mostly low to the ground. While other Gigas feature towering airtime hills, this ride focuses more on thrilling laterals and some of the most forceful turns you'll ever experience. Seriously, I came just inches away from actually blacking out on the ride's first turn, and I have never experienced a more intense ride element in my life. This coaster's white-hot speed stays consistent all the way to the final brake run. True to its NASCAR theme, you really feel like you're driving a race car through a winding course. What it lacks in airtime, it more than makes up for in breakneck speed, though it does feature some notable airtime moments as well. This large-scale coaster is worth the trip to King's Dominion alone, but it's not the park's only standout attraction. Number 8 is Twisted Timbers, also at Virginia's King's Dominion, an RMC iBox coaster. Although its initial announcement was arguably overshadowed by Cedar Point's Steel Vengeance, it still manages to hold its own as one of the best coasters I've ever ridden. This ride can pretty much be summed up as the following: airtime, airtime, and even more airtime. I couldn't even count how many ejector moments this ride had, and it cemented my belief that you can never have enough airtime. Not only is it jam-packed with out-of-your-seat moments, but it comes with a rare and noteworthy barrel roll drop that gets things off to a hot start. As for the other inversions, both the cutback and the zero-G roll complement each other wonderfully, much like a fine wine goes well with a truffle butter christened filet mignon. Much like Mystic Timbers, the ride manages to pack in a story of its own as well, this time centered on an extraterrestrial apple orchard. If that isn't unique, I don't know what is. What I do know is that you should check out this ride as soon as you can, especially if you're an airtime junkie like me. Number 7 is Skyrush at Pennsylvania's Hershey Park, an Intamin wing coaster. Speaking of airtime, what a wild ride this is. Despite its arguably infamous restraints, I never cease to have a splendid experience on this coaster. The first time I rode it, I was left breathless at how intense it was. I honestly didn't expect it to be as terrifying as it was. After traversing its countless ejector airtime moments and stomach-lifting drops, I was instantly enamored by this ride. It's yet another example of how you don't need inversions to have an amazing ride. How can you go wrong with a roller coaster that's said to have the most intense airtime on Earth? And the way it whips you over the water and past Comet, it manages to give scenic views to its riders even as it scares the pants off of them. Intamin didn't just knock it out of the park, they jettisoned it into space with this one. The restraints did bother me a bit on the final brake run, but that alone cannot keep me from giving this ride 2 big thumbs up. The ride as a whole way more than made up for it. Number 6 is Superman the Ride at Massachusetts Six Flags New England, an Intamin mega coaster. Intamin strikes yet again with another close-to-home attraction that I never get tired of. Like Skyrush, it does have restraints that many enthusiasts dislike, but honestly, they've never given me an issue. Maybe it's because I'm used to it, but I'm cool with them. Unlike other Superman-themed mega coasters at Six Flags America in Darien Lake, this one has a vastly different layout. Not only does it have the pure excitement of an out and back hypercoaster, but it also packs in an electrifying twister section. Think of out and back coasters and twisters like peanut butter and chocolate. They're both amazing on their own, but put them together and you've got a classic. To put it bluntly, this ride rocks and rolls from start to finish. After an incredible view of the Connecticut River and the park itself on the lift hill, you're sent plummeting into a tunnel and are given a multi-course meal of airtime moments. The rest of the ride features forceful bank turns, dips, and airtime moments. Not to mention the impressive head chopper effect those hills at the end give. This isn't the kind of ride you can experience only once. This is something you'll be eager to ride over and over again. Number 5 is Iron Rattler at Texas's Six Flags Fiesta Texas, an RMC iBox coaster. For several years, I have heard nothing but great things about this ride. I've seen the POVs, I've read the online reviews, and I went on expecting the best. But even still, I managed to have my expectations exceeded once again. This ride is almighty. Right off the bat, you've got a legendary first drop off the limestone quarry wall, and that isn't even the only off-the-wall moment. Another even more thrilling drop appears later in the ride. See, that's the thing. This coaster, as well as Six Flags Fiesta Texas itself, really does benefit from its setting. The use of the quarry wall is like something straight out of Planet Coaster, and Iron Rattler is made even better by it. The wall also comes into play during the ride's midway point, when an upward zero-G roll takes you to the top of it. This zero-G roll, by the way, is my favorite one so far. Even after ascending the wall, you still maintain enough speed to maneuver a few airtime bumps before plunging downwards and then going through the wall. Yes, a tunnel through the limestone wall. How incredible is that? I can't recommend this ride enough. You've got to check it out. Number 4 is Maverick at Ohio's Cedar Point, an Intamin Blitz coaster. This is without a doubt the best launch coaster I've ever ridden. Not because of the launches themselves, but the way those launches play their role in the ride's overall layout. Starting off with an LSM lift hill, you're immediately whipped into the layout via a beyond vertical 95-degree drop. And let me tell you, when you're in the back row, you get jolted over this drop. Don't let its relatively short height fool you. This coaster's intensity is flat out legendary. This layout really does have something for everyone. It has multiple launches, a beyond vertical drop, laterals cranked up to 11, amazing ejector airtime moments, and to top it all off, a wonderfully insane twisted horseshoe roll, one of the best inversions I've ever experienced. Moreover, its final launch is without a doubt the most intense LSM launch I've ever experienced. And as always, I'm a sucker for rides that go over the water. There is no reason to pass up on this attraction, it's that great. And now we've come to the top 3. Taking the bronze is El Toro at New Jersey's Six Flags Great Adventure, an Intamin prefabricated wooden coaster. No matter how many times I ride it, and no matter how many bumps the track may have every now and then, I don't think I'll ever find a wooden coaster better than this one. When it comes to woodies, its airtime is impeccable and the intensity of the drops is unquestionably unbeatable. With its speedy cable lift hill, El Toro sends you plummeting over that steep 76-degree drop. The first half of this ride will treat you to monumental airtime hills and head chopper effects, while the second half will finish things off with an amazing twister section. I still remember my first time riding it and being absolutely dumbfounded at how amazing it was. I'd never seen anything so intense in my life. Even on its occasional rough days, I love the wooden coaster feel El Toro has to offer, and for something as intense as it is, it's running very smoothly for the most part. It's hard to keep a wooden coaster as big as this one operational and enjoyable, but the fine folks at Six Flags Great Adventure deserve all the credit in the world for keeping El Toro as good as it is. Here's to many more years of operation. Taking the silver is Fury 325 at North Carolina's Carowinds, a B&M Giga coaster. I like to consider this as B&M's magnum opus, the supreme king of their installations, the creme de la creme. Fury 325 is, by all means, an icon, and deservedly so. I could sit here all day and list all the reasons this coaster is awesome, but I'll try to be brief. The first drop is just as insane as it looks, sending riders downwards for what seems like ages before they level out at the bottom. It may not have inversions, but it still packs in quite a few memorable, unique elements that make it the delight that it is. Among these elements is the enormous treble clef turnaround and the green neon hive tunnel. All the while, you'll get to experience some astounding airtime moments and a cornucopia of laterals. Riding such a grand scale attraction makes you feel like you're on top of the world, like you're taking flight on a massive fire-breathing dragon. The POV videos don't do this ride justice. You really need to experience it to truly understand the magnitude of this coaster's spectacle. Fury 325 is a masterpiece. And now we've come to to number 1, and it's Steel Vengeance at Ohio's Cedar Point, an RMC iBox coaster. From the moment I first saw the POV for this coaster, I knew I was in for something special, but saying this coaster lived up to the hype is a gross understatement. Steel Vengeance not only represents everything I love about RMC, but everything I love about roller coasters, period. The layout as a whole mixes long, sweeping elements with more compact, faster elements to lead to the coaster equivalent of a tiramisu. Many different layers that come together to create something truly delicious. Everything here is pulled off seamlessly. The 90-degree drop provides unimaginable intensity, the inversions are as smooth as they are exhilarating, the speed is consistent even with the mid-course brake run, and of course, the ride is absolutely blooming with airtime. Steel Vengeance currently holds the record for the most airtime on a single roller coaster, and you really can't doubt that after just one ride. Unlike many coasters out there, the ride's second half manages to exceed the first, packing in inversions and airtime moments inside the wooden support structure. This is undoubtedly the most dreamlike moment on any coaster I've ever ridden. I waited almost 3 hours to ride this, and for the first time ever, I can safely say that a wait that long was worth it. Steel Vengeance, I salute you. Thanks for watching, everyone. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on social media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or you can check out my website at themeparkcrazy.com. This is Theme Park Crazy, and I'll see you all next time.